on Saturdays from 9 until noon. And they'll be set up there. So, moving on to our special guest, Travis, for this evening.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I'm not that special, Dad.
Well, I don't know about that, son. But, what is your worst memory on a military installation?
Worst memory.
I didn't give him a script for questions so that he could think about all this because I wanted him to be put on the spot to where he has to answer me honestly instead of being able to come up with something that I think would sound good.
Honestly, the worst experience about being on a military base is, like I said earlier, getting close with friends and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then going knocking on their door one day, and either nobody answers the door or a new guy answers the door, and you're like, "What you doing in my friend's house?" Because everybody's just moving in and moving out. And because I was mad in this particular one situation in New York, my closest friend I've ever had, he moved, and somehow they managed to get a new family in that weekend. And I went and knocked on the door to ask if he could hang out. And this full-grown man that I've never seen in my life answers the door, and he's like, "Can I help you?" And I was like, "Can Hayden come out to play?" And he goes, "Who?" And I was like, "Never mind." And I called him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I think someone broke in your house." He goes, "Nah, I'm in Alaska." And I'm like, you live there now or something?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, this is ridiculous. So that's probably the worst memories I have of being on a military base, is just all your friends are moving out, and sometimes you never see them again, sometimes you do.
Right.
So, yeah.
So let's do a little bit of military history. How about that?
Okay.
So, June 25th. Well, let's see. In 1788, Virginia ratified the U.S. Constitution. In 1862, oh, this is running a lot of fire. The first day of the 7 Days Campaign began with fighting at Oak Grove, Virginia, with Robert E. Lee commanding the Confederate armies for the first time. In 1863, President Lincoln chose U.S. General George Meade to replace General Hooker, hoping that he would be more aggressive. Some local history. In 1864, the Pennsylvania troops began digging a tunnel towards the rebels at Petersburg, Virginia, in order to blow a hole in the Confederate lines and break the stalemate. They'd beaten the crap out of each other for about a month and a half. Then the armies came to a standstill in Petersburg. That was with Robert E. Lee and Ulysses S. Grant. Just south of Richmond, they settled in the trenches for a long siege of the Confederate Rail Center. The men of the 48th Pennsylvania sought to break the stalemate with an ambitious project. The brainchild of Lieutenant Colonel Harry Pleasants, the plan called for the men of his regiment, mostly miners from Pennsylvania's anthracite coal region, to construct a tunnel to the Confederate line, fill it with powder, and blow a gap in the fortifications.
That's kind of cool, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, that is ambitious. Yeah.
Yeah.
On June 24th, the plan received the approval of the regiment's corps commander, Ambrose Burnside, and the digging commenced the following day, June 25th. General Grant and Meade were not very enthusiastic about it, apparently, but they allowed it to proceed. For 5 weeks, the miners dug the 500-foot-long shaft, completing about 40 feet per day. On July 30th, the gunpowder was ignited, the plan worked, and a huge gap was blown in the rebel line. But poor planning by Union officers squandered the opportunity, and the Confederates closed the gap before the Federals could exploit the opening. The Battle of the Crater, as it became known, was an unusual event in an otherwise uneventful summer along the Petersburg line. Well, that explains a lot about the Crater Road and the Petersburg battlefield and all that stuff. We need to go down there and go on that tour at some point. I keep meaning to do it, but it's like every time I have the time, they don't want to be open.
I was going to say, it seems every time you have the time, you don't really have the time.
Yeah. So, in 1876, determined to resist the efforts of the U.S. Army to force them onto reservations, Indians under the leadership of Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse wiped out Lieutenant Colonel George Custer and much of his 7th Cavalry at the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
I heard a lot about that in school, actually.
Yeah. So, they got their heinies paddled. On this date in 1942, Major General Dwight D. Eisenhower took command of U.S. forces in Europe. And then we'll skip down, because this is what I know took place today. In 1950, on June 25th, armed forces from Communist North Korea smashed into South Korea, setting off the Korean War. So that kicked off back in 1950. So today is the 70th anniversary of the start of the Korean War. And let's see if there's anything more recent here.
Okay. Very recent then.
Yeah, I'm looking. Hush up. Hush, hush, hush.
Fine. I'll just sit here and be quiet.
Yeah. So.
I'll just leave the studio.
No, you can't leave the studio. We're locked in. So there's whoa. Okay, never mind. So there's some military history for you from today's date. So that I did not know that about. I mean, I knew that they tunneled to try to blow a hole in the Confederate line, but I didn't know that they had
turned it into Crater Road.
That was, probably how Crater Road got its name. Nor did I know that they wasted the opportunity that they had created for themselves.
Right.
So I'm sure that old Generals Grant and Meade who were already apprehensive about this tunnel digging project, were probably even less than thrilled when they found out that after spending 5 weeks digging a hole, that they wasted the opportunity for it.
I'd be as mad as a cat in water, dude.
So, all right, so your brother has recently signed up to join the Army.
Mm-hmm.
And he will be leaving for basic training here shortly. What do you think about that?
I'm proud of him. I hope he gets to experience the greatness that the military has to offer. And I hope he gets to move around and see all the things he's always wanted to see but never could. but I'm also kind of scared. Same fears I had for you was, I mean, what if he gets deployed into combat? And that's just a scary gut feeling. And other than that, I don't really know how to feel yet. I guess we'll know when he does get sent to basic training, and I mean, I know it's just basic training. There ain't really much that's going to happen to him there, where I have to be overly concerned about his safety. So, that, I mean, it's just an overwhelming, proud feeling. So.
Okay.
Was that the answer you were hoping for?
I wasn't hoping for an answer. I was hoping for your honesty.
If you weren't hoping for an answer, then I'll just sit here quietly.
So, you discussed wanting to join the military when you become of age.
Right.
Is that something that's still on the platter for you, or is that something that's taking a back burner, or where does that set in your realm of possibilities?
I'm on a crossroads here, right? I really want to join the military. I love the thought of it 100%. You get to meet lifelong friends in the military. You get to explore new places or even old places that I may have been being a military brat. And then there's so much camaraderie that you see.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that's everything. Plus, I mean, I get to protect this country. That's worth $1 million to me, if not more. So there's that, and that makes me want to join the military. But I don't want to because I also want to have kids at a young age, and I don't want them to have to move around and adapt and move and adapt and move and adapt for most of their their childhood. And Mom has suggested to me a while back, just wait till you get out and then have kids. But I would like to have kids younger so I can relate to them more than still having a younger brain than having a 50-year-old brain and having a 16-year-old kid. Like, you don't understand technology, so I can't complain to you about it. Because then you're just going to stick your phone in your face and ask me how to do something when that's the thing I'm complaining about.
So, well, I think that before considering children, you need to be looking at having a stable financially stable, provided I can speak English properly, a financially stable household.
Right. But
that's a conversation for another time. So, what other options are you looking at if not the military? Or if you do join the military, what would you want to do in the military, and what branch would you want to join?
Army all the way.
Okay.
Why even ask that question? So, I'd want to join the Army, and I'd either want to be an infantry or a mechanic of some type.
Okay.
And then if I don't join the military, if that's just something that I find isn't in my cards, then I'd either try to become a teacher, a history or a science teacher. And if not that, then I'd go to school, learn how to weld, keep on practicing my welding, and when I get better, I'm a master welder, and I get a legitimate job either or I'd go to school as a mechanic as well. That way I can become a mechanic and work on cars and trucks and motorcycles and all that fun stuff.